Hi guys, you've tuned into Business Today, and right now with me joining us on the sidelines of Goa Fest is Mr. Geet Lulla. He's the Vice President Sales of APAC at Comscore. Geet, thank you so much for joining in.
My pleasure.
And earlier today you were in this very insightful discussion on the future of connected devices and cross-channel measurement. So, what is the future? Where are we headed?
I think the future is necessarily very fragmented. That's just the way technology has evolved and the way it's driven essentially by the way consumers consume information, news, entertainment. They're device agnostic, they're location agnostic, they are agnostic in so many ways, and that's enabled by technology. But that has also led to this necessary fragmentation of channels. So we have to look at how do we measure all this consumption. And I think that's one of the key challenges facing the industry today, not just in India, but across the world.
But talking about challenges and evolution, cross-channel measurement has become quite sophisticated. It has evolved a fair bit. But when it comes to extracting insightful data, information and insights, are we there yet?
That's a great question. First of all, in a digital world, everything produces data. So we have too much data.
Yeah, exactly.
That's one. Number two, data by itself without context means nothing. Right? Yeah. So there has to be some context, some story, some narrative to support whatever premise that you have. And as I said yesterday in the session, that human beings by nature need that emotional connect. We are necessarily, that's the way we are made up, that we need to understand that narrative to be able to make sense of the data. Right? So for me, as representing Comscore, we do turn out a wealth of data on the digital side of things. I think we look for partners and collaborations and agencies who can actually take that data amongst one of the data sets and try to make sense out of it and pull out those insights that you mentioned. That is absolutely essential.
And today, all that we're talking about is the transition, transformation, the future.
Yeah.
So how has, according to you, the transition been from traditional to new mediums and new platform, and also consuming traditional content and traditional media on different devices?
Again, great question. As we've seen technology evolve, I mean, we can start off, going back a few hundred years and saying, hey, the printing press started, right? And that led to print, and then that led to newspapers, and that was the standard for many, many decades, perhaps centuries. And then we moved into radio, right, last century. And then again, we moved into television, and then we moved into digital. Now, at every one of these transitions, the word that you use, there has been a death knell sounded for the old medium. Guess what? We still have radio, we still have print, we still have all. And that leads to this whole thing that, but for the industry, for the advertiser, the important thing is to identify the single viewer, right? That, you are you and you're consuming things across various mediums. And that is the reality today, which makes it absolutely important for the industry as a whole to do cross-channel measurement, to establish who is consuming what, how much, perhaps at what time. Absolutely essential. The good news is the advertising associations around the globe are actually working on models on a cross media measurement initiative, which is currently being piloted in the US. Comscore is the technology partner for that particular initiative. And it's, I'm happy to report that, obviously there was a bit of a slowdown during the pandemic years, but it's revived substantially over the last year and a half, and it's going great guns. A lot of that is also driven by the other side, which is very important, is privacy.
Yeah.
So we have to have measurement, which is important, but we also have to ensure that the rights and the privacy of the individual consumer are protected, right? So marrying these two together across content consumption and ad measurement, advertisement measurement, is something that this initiative is working on, and it's going great guns.
Right now, as things are, there is a lot of frustration, a lot of sense of anxiety about measurement. So given that initiatives, just how the one you were mentioning, given that these kind of initiatives and developments are taking place as we speak, in the next 3 to 4 years, where do you see the measurement landscape? Will all be well?
So I think the very essential thing for the industry to do as a whole is kind of come together and enable collaboration. Again, I mentioned this earlier, that the monolithic approach or a dominance approach to measurement is kind of passé. because of the fragmentation, right? Yes, there's somebody who measures this channel, let's say radio, or somebody measures print, or somebody measures TV, or we measure digital, right? We also measure social extensively.
Yeah.
But when you want to get a unified view of the consumer, you need to marry all these together. Now, I don't believe that there exists in India a single entity that can do everything, which means let's collaborate.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And if we can come together and do that, I think we've got a great thing going. And Indians are jugadus, right? We are innovators by nature. So if we actually put our minds to it, we can do things. I mean, if you look at things like Aadhaar, if you look at things like UPI, I mean, these are things that have not at scale not happened anywhere else in the world. And guess what? We figured it out and it works. So why can't we fix something as simple as measurement?
Absolutely, and here's hoping that happens soon. As someone who is part of the other side of the industry. But if we talk about digital platforms, there is definitely a lot of thrust, a lot of push, and a rise in short form content, short videos.
Yes.
Where do you see that headed? What is the future of that?
I think I'm even more interested in the present than the future, right? And the present is very simple. I think short form video, I've been a big fan of short form video as a means to enabling creativity. And I'll give you a specific example, right? I don't know if you've heard of an agency, it's a company called Terribly Tiny Tales, right? And I read their book 5 years ago. And now I hear they're actually producing shorts, which are 140 seconds, right? So that's fabulous creativity, that's fabulous innovation. And I think the logical convergence that's happening today, not in the future, is between social media and short form video. Because we are not going to see short form video consumed in bulk as much on social media as anyone. You're talking about YouTube Shorts, you're talking about Instagram Reels, you're talking about those kind of platforms. So I think that's a beautiful convergence that's happening today as we speak. Which, because everyone's looked, advertisers in general, I think, have looked at social as kind of another animal, not as part of mainstream media and content delivery. But guess what? No longer true, because short form video, which is the new thing, for the young creators out there, is being consumed on social media.
But couldn't that change the consumption pattern over the big picture, over the longer period? Because if yes, there's great content being created which is under 2 minutes, under 1 minute even, but the attention span is increasingly going down, especially for the Gen Z.
Well, I mean, I guess no one can predict the future. But if you take the past to be any kind of indicator, as I said, we've seen all forms of content remain, right? So will there be, let's say 5 years or 10 years or 25 years from now, will there still be an audience for a 90-minute Hollywood movie or a 180-minute Bollywood movie? I think there will be. Right?
Okay.
It's in a way, it's the mode of delivery, it's the kind of content, the genre, and it's also the length of it. Well, short form video is a new thing. It will have its own audience. But is it fair to say that people who consume only short form video don't consume movies or don't consume music? No, I think there is this whole fragmentation.
So there's no threat of that getting.
Look, don't hold me to it in 25 years, but I don't think so. I think it will be another form that's come into exist. Podcasts, they didn't exist really 15 years ago.
Yes.
Today they're a big thing. But has that killed music? Has that killed movies? It's
but
not.
I mean, it could take away some share, but you don't think anything significant would happen?
Well, I think that is a challenge to the creativity of the current forms, right? If there was no TV, there would be no TV serials. Then we would be forced to watch movies in cinema theaters, right? Or on a VCR or whatever.
Yeah.
So what happened then, right? When TV started and you started having long-running TV shows, I think that challenged the content producers on the movie side to do some innovation, to wake up. So in that sense, any kind of new thing is, in my view, always a good thing. Yes, it may be viewed as a threat in the short term, but I think it also gives a wake-up call, hey, we need to innovate to the existing players. Because if there was no such threat, there would be no innovation in the existing forms. So I think it's always so, if there is, a 90-second video versus a 90-minute movie, I think that's just a wake-up call that, hey, we need to do things differently.
Differently, absolutely. My last question to you is about technology. You've had a very vast background. You've worked with SAP and Oracle, etc. So talk to us about how tech is now playing an incrementally higher role in creativity, in content, in across different platforms?
I'm a technophile. I enjoy technology, but I would say that I'm an even bigger fan of applied technology. And that means that when you take technology, apply it into something that delivers meaningful output, product, or outcome, right? Now, whether you do that for a social cause, whether you do that for entertainment, whether you do that for what have you, I think it's important to understand that technology by itself has, in my view of the world, has little meaning unless it is applied to deliver some positive outcome, right? Unfortunately, sometimes we get married to just technology itself and we forget about what it's doing, and we have examples of that, right? How technology has gone wild and actually resulted in negative things. But I think in general, I would say, technology done right and applied in the right way to generate the right positive outcome is great. It is today, it underlies everything that we do. I mean, this discussion would earlier be recorded on a massive camera weighing, 25 kilos. Today is being recorded on a mobile phone, right? So that's great technology. It makes life so much easier for all of us.
All right. On that note, thank you so much, Mr. Lulla, for talking to us and sharing your insights about the measurement landscape and which way possibly we are headed.
Thank you so much. Great questions. Thank you.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.